Today I'm learning how to improve in Age of Empires with Lidakor. Oh, he's calling! He's calling, guys! I have to behave now. We're serious. We're a serious community. Hello! Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Yay! Hi, Nika!
All right, so welcome to Gamerlegion coaching. So I think you told me that you want to focus on two things, and that is defense and your build orders, right?
Yes. So I've been practicing a little bit the scout and archery build order, but they're still not as clean as they could be. But I think the first thing, one main thing that I would like to target with you today, if that is fine, would be defending, because I always get overwhelmed and I'm panicking and I don't know the right strats for defending if my opponent is faster or using aggressive strategies.
Okay, so we can work on that.
It would be cool.
I think you can break down defense to two different categories. One is defending against like a cavalry play, that's or either even a man-at-arms play, but basically against non-range units. And there is a completely different defense when it comes to defending against range units. So I would say we start with the cavalry one because it's actually easier. What we are basically going to do is that I'll be attacking you and you will be defending, because this way we can practice different scenarios overall.
Okay. Ah, Lidakor will attack me! Help! So everyone get their pen and paper ready to make your notes, what we will learn from Lidakor today.
This is actually a sort of a test scenario that I put together.
Ooh, okay.
It's a standard Arabia map, and the idea is that you have a bit of a time to wall yourself up, and after that, I'll be attacking with scouts. You will have all the resources needed, and I will also be watching how you do this. So you will be able to, or we will be able to discuss if you do something right or something wrong. Right, I think we're all set. So you have to ready up as well, and then we can jump in there. So there's a couple of things that we're gonna try. The best thing to do against any kind of aggression is always walling. So placing your walls in like reasonable positions is actually extremely important. Figure out the best way of walling, because that's the most important thing to do. Cost-efficient walls will be extremely important.
Oh, so
overall.
I don't have to scout now, actually. Alright.
Yeah, you don't have to scout. Just make sure that you build the best walls you can. So, like, obviously, in terms of best walls, those are the ones that you want to make up. You don't have to actually get resources. You should start with like 1 million of each. So just focus on walling. The core concept is that you want to start walling yourself up as fast as possible.
Okay.
And
wall up
then
as
we'll
fast
talk
as
about the
possible.
scouts. So when it comes to defending against scouts and even men-at-arms, the core concept is that wherever you have like a palisade wall, you can always wall behind or repair that. So the first thing is not to panic, which is easier said than done. But the most important factor, as I said, is that you really need to stay calm. If you start to panic, then things will actually start going bad. So you get houses here on the front, and you're also walling yourself up for the time being. So the right side walls, I would actually agree with that. Those are some nice walls for you. Because they incorporate one golden stone, and it's by far the most cost-efficient wall. One thing to pay attention for is that, for example, on the front of your wall, right now you have 2 villagers that actually lock themselves on the outside. So you gotta keep track of those, otherwise they will have to walk all the way around. I think in this case it's better to just delete the wall, send them in, and rebuild that wall, because you see how much time they take to walk all the way around. That takes forever.
Okay.
So let's talk about walling defense. Even if you're not fully walled, I can come forward with my scouts, and I will try to. I will always try attacking palisade walls, and the reason why is because you see that houses don't go down to scouts. These are barely taking any damage. Like worst case scenarios that you send a will and you repair it. So whenever they're attacking your houses, there's absolutely no problem with that. Walls are actually a bit of a more problematic thing because in this case you see that the wall is going down slowly. You can do two things here. You can either send a will to repair it. That's a possibility. Or you can indeed add the house behind. Now, when the attacker sees that, he will immediately switch to a different segment of the wall. So that's something that you have to prepare for. You don't even need to finish those houses for now, indeed. You just gotta make sure that this is something that you can do. For the same reason, you do not want to wall very far away on any direction. So these walls are good, but one thing that you always have to consider when you're walling is that whenever you wall, you have to be able to get there with a villager before I break in there. So you see that you will have time to get in here. If you would further out, you would have no time to get there.
Okay.
Also, when walling diagonal, you always need two houses behind this one, or a palisade as well. So, yeah, exactly like that. So diagonal is a little bit harder to wall behind overall. That's basically the walling concept against scouts. Now, when it comes to men-at-arms, you basically do the exact same thing. It's just a matter of you have to do it faster, and you also have to do it like, I don't recommend repairing against men-at-arms because they actually get through walls a lot easier, especially if those are Gothic men-at-arms. So, men-at-arms will be able to get through your walls easier. In that case, it's almost guaranteed that you want to drop houses behind.
Okay.
So, one thing to consider when it comes to walling is that, for example, right now I have safe gold here, that's secondary gold. That's 4 tiles. But if you didn't have it over there, you have a primary gold that you use to wall. And if that is the case, then an archer can deny this one. So that's something that you always have to consider. Sometimes there is no better way of walling, and as you see, this house is going down much faster to the men-at-arms. Now, there could be instances where you just can't get here with your wheels in time. In that case, don't bother repairing, just add a second house behind. So, just like you would do with walls. If you ever feel like you're a little too late, like you see that this house has, let's say, 100 HP, then it's better to just say, okay, I'm just gonna wall behind because I am not confident holding that one for long. Exactly. That's the exact same thing that you would do if there is an archer coming up, because the archer, even a single archer, will actually be able to deny your wheels from making that house. You see that I'm actually able to force them away.
Yes.
Same thing with walls. So what can you do in this situation? You can do two things, depending on the severity of this one. You can either, like, if it's a very, very problematic...
Yeah, I cannot build that here now because with your archer you're denying it. So...
You can actually build it with 2 wheels. So what you have to do is probably spam a right click on it. Because
so they would get a lot of damage.
They will, but when they actually start getting damaged, you pull them away. See, like, they still have 30 HP. Obviously, you don't want to have them die, but you see that you still get that house up. You lost some HP, but it saved you from the men-at-arms getting in, and you bought yourself some time. So...
And if there would be lots of archers, I could not do that anymore.
Exactly. In that case, there is a nice trick that's called market walling. You can use a market to put behind. It's actually fairly expensive. The reason why you do it with a market is because it's so big. And the archers cannot shoot over it. Like, you see that there's gonna be a tile gap, by the way, right next to the house, but you see that my archers, even with fletching, they wouldn't be able to access it. This doesn't apply in Castle Age because crossbowmen would be able to do it. you don't have to finish these markets. If you get up to something like 50% health at maximum, especially if it's only men at arm or if only archers, then they will never get through it. Men at arms might be able to, but you don't need to finish all of those markets. Usually the idea is that you get to like 500 HP, and if they go away, you can even delete those. So, like, I'm just going to demonstrate on these markets that without the men at arms, I would never get through those with feudal age archers.
Okay.
So, like, you see that I'm attacking it and it's barely losing HP. So, if it's only archers, anything above 300, 400 HP will hold off those archers. And it's important not to build it longer, because if you build it longer, you spend more wood on it. After you delete these, you will get a certain portion of the wood back, but the more completed the building is, the less you get back. So you would waste a lot of wood on 5 markets like this. So yeah, like if you see that I'm going away, you can think about deleting it and replacing it with a house or so. But yeah, that's the concept of market wall. It's actually very, very helpful against archers. Now, what happens if you just can't hold it because there's just so much coming your way?
Okay.
In that case, I think that's the last thing that you want to do, because it's fairly expensive and you can only make 1 defensive tower. But you can always make a defensive tower to cut off the path of the archer. That's especially true against archers. Against scouts, the scouts can just run past the defensive tower. But if you ever feel like, hey, you are probably gonna get overwhelmed here, then it's still better to rush up a defensive tower.
Okay, and this is too close now. You would kill
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. You don't want to drop them in their face. What you want, you can delete that tower. Like, if you feel like, hey, my tower isn't going up, delete it and rebuild it somewhere else behind where it's actually safe. You don't have to be super aggressive. You can even build it like 2 or 3 towers more at the back. What you want to make sure is that even if they get through these walls, they run into a tower. So yeah, that's the concept of defensive towers. That's especially true, for example, if you're mining this gold mine that's 4 tiles, and you see that I'm getting into your base, then you have to drop a defensive tower there because you would lose that resource immediately. So that's something to point out. When it comes to defending against knights or so, in cavalry, it's the same thing as defending against scouts. One thing I want to highlight is that the palisade gates are much weaker than palisade walls. So for example, this gate over here goes up down really fast, and for example, this is an instance where you are not going to wall behind in time, I think. That's that's a nice market.
But it would not help because on the other side there's still space.
Exactly.
Could I do another one?
Yeah, you can.
I cannot because it's on a hill. Haha, this is quite unlucky.
Exactly. But yeah, this is actually the nice defense here. And I'm just going to show you that, like, if I come in here, if I can click that, I can't access your villas. I can't get close enough.
It was lucky then.
Yeah, like, you can also try to build this with 2 villas, but when I have enough archers here, you suddenly will have a tough time doing that.
Oh, and there's a hole. Look at that. There's always a hole. So and I built a tower now.
Yeah, exactly. That's where panic towers start to come into play.
Panic tower, let's go. Oh, my scout.
So yeah, that's basically it. Once you get to Castle Age, or once your opponent gets to Castle Age, you kind of have to expect knights to come your way. And you also have to consider that market walls don't work against crossbows anymore.
Markets?
Market walls. Yeah, these are called market walls.
Market walls.
They don't work against crossbows anymore, or at least not so well, because the crossbows have enough range to shoot over them. They work very good against archers, but once you have crossbows, especially when they have the upgrades, they are just going to get dominated. So the thing is that you're actually mining this gold mine. This is something I don't recommend doing if you vote like this. Because if I send one archer here, you suddenly do not have any gold access. Like, nothing at all. So if you vote like that, you probably want to use your safer gold mine, which is at the back.
Okay.
So this is exactly the reason why, whenever possible, it's not good to vote a gold mine like this, because you see, all I need is just one archer and you don't have gold. And if this was your only gold mine, it would be a lot worse. Now, one thing I want to highlight is that you have some straggler trees inside your walls.
Yes.
I'm not sure if you know that trick.
Yeah,
but
I think you can destroy them and then the walls are open.
If you chop it down with a villager, replace it with a palisade wall, and delete it, delete the palisade wall, then you can actually get rid of a tree like that. Just like that.
Okay.
So this is something that you've got to be careful about, because I can bring in stuff like that. So what can you do when your opponent starts to push you with mangonels and you're still feudal age? You can probably do towers. That's your best bet. So garrison towers can actually hold out for some time, but when you are still in feudal age and your opponent is cast, so you have to get up soon. You can actually click up, I think, so that we can do some mangonel defense.
Okay, so I built a tower now.
Yeah, you always have to garrison your towers as well against mangonels, especially because they are feudal age towers. Feudal age towers are a lot weaker than castle age towers are. So they have 700 HP as opposed to, I think, 1020 or so. So feudal age towers actually are going to die fairly easily to mangonels, but that's still your best defense in feudal against mangonels.
Okay. So I'll let you get through, and then I'll be under the tower, or in the tower.
Yeah. If you feel like you need a bit more firepower, fletching will help your tower from the blacksmith, and so will it do with the range. This mangonel's
and garrisoning helps me to get more arrows out.
Exactly. Without garrison, you are 100% going to lose that tower. Now here's the tricky thing. If he has a villager behind to repair, that's where trouble starts to begin, because this villager is not something that the tower can target. And you see that. You see that the tower is going down faster than you can kill the mangonels. I only have one. If I had more, then this would be a lot easier to push. So this is why when you see this one, you can actually slow it down with defensive towers, but you have to consider that you need to get up to castle age fast. So when you're getting pushed by mangonels, probably the best defense is to have your own mangonels as well. So if you see that your opponent is pushing you to mangonels, then most likely your best thing to do is to make your mangonels. Siege workshops are also big buildings, so indeed, as you're doing it right now, you can actually use them to kind of block certain parts of your base and limit the opponent's movement. That helps quite a bit overall. So
okay, you just cannot build it in feudal age.
Exactly, unless you're humans. And
okay, I'm building a mangonel now.
Exactly. When you see that I'm not pushing aggressive, you can garrison that mangonel inside the siege workshop and just wait there. Because when I see the flags on the siege workshop, I know there is probably a mangonel inside, and I will just not try to commit, because when you have a mangonel garrisoned inside, you decide when it actually comes out of the siege workshop, so you will always be able to have the first shot on the opponent. So that should allow you to take down any mangonels that come your way. So, for example, if I were to push here, you are the one deciding when the mangonel pops out of your siege workshop, so you should be able to take the first shot. Make sure that exactly. See that you have the initiative, and this way,
Sneaky.
and this way, you can actually prevent me from taking down, and that's all you have to do. Sometimes your opponent will react in time and destroy your mangonel as well. But the idea is that you have to slow push like this down. Now, there could be instances where the opponent pushes you with rams, but indeed, you basically have to just make sure you have mangonels defending. The best defense against rams is mangonels. They take them down so easily.
Okay.
So that's basically the case. Now, what can you do if suddenly your opponent decides to drop a castle in your face?
Oh yeah, that could happen as well. I think there's the possibility to make a counter castle as well.
Exactly. Now, the tricky thing is that usually when you get castle drop, you don't have enough stone to make yours. But indeed, what you have to do in that case is quickly get your own defensive castle up. And in that case, there is no shame sending like 15 wheels on stone because you need that castle. Like the best way of doing that is getting a castle up, because as you see, I make a castle over here. This is already a bad situation for you because that's going to guarantee that you lose that gold. But indeed, you can make a counter castle, and in these situations, you indeed have to commit everything to getting that up.
Yeah.
Now, if your opponent only brings a couple of vills, you can try to build your castle close to it and just try to beat him to completion. Because then you will be able to snipe his vills. But if he has the advantage, always build your castle in a way that you're outside of the opponent's castle's range. Because otherwise, you will start losing vills. Like these, for example. So, yeah, the red ones, or the ones that are building right now, are actually outside of the range, but only build it close enough to it so that you're in the range. When you feel like you can actually get it up faster than your opponent. Now, in such stalemates, there is two things that can happen. If the two castles are very close to each other, so like 1 or 2 tiles, you always make petards, because the walking distance is so small to the opponent's base or the opponent's castle that you will, like 95% sure, be able to take down his castle with petards. And you have to expect that he's also making petards.
Okay. But that's not always the case that the castles are so close.
Yeah, if it's 1 or 2 tiles distance, then it's going to be always petards. If it's more, but they are inside or within each other's range, then it's going to be rams. And the reason why it's going to be rams is because the best way to get rid of the opponent's castle is to send in rams. And the best way to destroy rams would be to send your villagers and just beat them up, or any knight or whatever you have. But when the two castles are so close to each other, you can't do it because my castle will just shoot your vills. So indeed, you have to do what you do right now. You gotta go for a mangonel because that helps you take down my rams.
Okay.
You can also, in such situations, you can also prepare a ram push yourself if your opponent isn't doing it. So if you do it, always wait until you have at least 2 or 3 rams, preferably 4. Because you see that 1 ram can be taken down fairly easily.
Yeah.
If I had like 5 rams here, you suddenly would have a lot more trouble in that case. What you have to be aware about in this case is that as long as these 2 castles stand up, you're not in a safe position.
My villager.
Especially because if you think about it, you might have the better economy compared to your opponent, but what if your opponent just goes to an early Imperial Age? This is especially true on Arena. You get a castle in your face, and then your opponent goes into early Imperial. Even if he has like 20 villagers, he's going to have a castle you can't kill, and he's going to have traps. And suddenly your castle has no tools of surviving.
Yeah.
So this is something that you always have to be aware about in this case. It's hard to spot this one because the best way to spot this is just by looking at the score. But that's not something that you have like you constantly have to look at the score, and that takes a lot of energy. So
Yeah.
that's more like a pro player thing. But at latest, when he's up to Imperial, you have to think about getting up to Imperial as well, because you won't be able to hold against an Imperial Age push unless you have a lot of Rams and he has no army. So that's the only possible alternative. If you Ram push that castle down before the opponent comes in with Trebs, and he has no army to kill your Rams with, then there is a shot for you to do that.
Okay, and there was a question in the chat. Can you not just garrison petards into the Rams?
I don't think that you can.
Should we try? I would try.
I think I tried this once because that would be a very, very OP move.
That would be so OP.
Just a second. Wait, I'm just going to explain something, because this Ram push is a nice thing, but you have a bunch of Palisade walls that are blocking your own Rams. So
I should delete them.
Yeah, exactly. When you do that, just delete them.
Okay. And now you got your thing. Oh, okay. Yeah, I should have placed the petard in there earlier.
One thing that you can do is distract the castle fire with Rams, and then take down the castle with petards. So you can use a Ram to absorb arrow fire, because the castle is going to target basically the first unit it sees. So if you have a Ram out, right now it's right next to the castle and I don't have murder holes, so the castle won't attack that Ram. But if you were to push with like Rams and buildings like that, or Rams and petards, then you would have to do it with a Ram distracting castle. So now you see I'm at an imp.
Yeah.
So you probably want to get into Imperial as well. You can delay my push quite a bit by getting repair villagers on that castle. So
getting what?
Repair the castle. So that's a key thing. You always have to repair. There's a magic number. For every trebuchet that's attacking your castle, you need 7 villagers to repair. So you see 1, 2, 3, 4. I think that's 8. And if you take a look at your overall HP of the castle, you will not really be losing HP on that castle. You see that it's like a steady 2.7, 2.8k. I can take it down with 1 trap. Now, especially at lower elo, players might stop at 1 trap and say, hey, I'm trapping down your castle. But I see that you're repairing with 8 vills, so if I bring in a second trap, then suddenly you're in trouble.
Yeah.
So this is why you need to get up to Imperial as fast as possible, because you will have no tools to stop this in Castle Age. You can try sending in a couple more vills to repair, but usually the magic number for tribute pushes, and that's also something that you can do if you are the one attacking, is 3. 3 would be 21 villagers repairing. That's almost impossible for most players to pull off. It's just too much.
Okay, so I tried to garrison this petard in my Ram and it didn't work.
Exactly, it doesn't work. It would be too OP.
Yeah.
It would be way too much.
Oh, I only have 2 Rams. Oops. I forgot that I need 5.
Yeah, basically, when you are in a position like this, you can do 2 things. You either go into Imperial or you go for a Ram push. Both of them usually won't work at the same time. You can actually buy yourself some time here with the building health upgrade. So like a university would allow you to go for masonry, and that actually helps quite a bit. But now that you're up to Imperial, in such a situation, the first thing to do is always get your own traps out. Exactly. Like, before anything else, the first thing is to queue traps.
Okay.
Because you need to take that castle down as soon as possible. And whenever you have the option, you will have 2 options here. I'm just going to present my traps to you here. You can do 2 things. You can target my traps with yours and say, hey, I will just destroy those before I destroy your castle, right? But there is a problem with that. Traps don't have 100% accuracy.
Yeah.
So if you're shooting at my traps with yours, you will not always hit, And I can also use 2 of my villagers to repair my trebuchets all the time, right? In contrast, if I shoot your building, I always hit. So whenever possible, it's probably better to hit the building than the than the actual trebs.
Okay,
Because you're always guaranteed to hit the building.
I always did that mistake. Oops, that was a mistake again. I'm doing stupid things.
It's not necessarily a mistake to target the opponent's trebuchets, but you should, like, you might not be able to stop a push like that if you're just targeting the opponent's traps. In this situation, it's still better for you to trade castles because you are the one under pressure. So you see that I'm going to lose my castle, but I will try my best to trade castles here. So even if you lose your own castle, don't get discouraged. Even a 1-for-1 castle trade is better than just, you know, losing your castle and not getting anything in return. So you see that it's much easier for me to repair my traps than it is to repair the castle. So that's one of the reasons why it's usually better to target the castle. And I end in a 1-for-1 trade overall. So that's basically trap defense. Now, one more thing I can add to defense that can help in very, very late game. In late game, you will expand your economy all across the map. You will have food lines overchopped, so you won't have the time to always look at, hey, is my base fully walled anymore?
True.
Something that can help you a lot is placing outposts across the map. Because outposts will let you spot where the opponents are coming from, and information is so important. So if you were to, like, if you don't know where your opponent is at, you will get surprised a lot more. If you have an outpost, like for example, if I have an outpost here, even if you didn't have the map revealed right now.
Where's here?
Next to your onager.
Okay. Yeah, I see
so,
it here.
Like, even if I can just see where you're coming from, and that gives me a split second to react. Same thing with cavalry raids, same thing with any kind of push. Just half a minute that gives you time to prepare can be life-saving. And outposts are very, very cheap, so like you see that I can actually place a couple of them all across the map. If you do this, it's good to grab at least the first line of sight upgrade for them, so Town Watch, but Town Patrol is also good if you can.
What's the other one?
Town Patrol. That's those are the 2 upgrades next to Wheelbarrow on Town Center.
Okay. Oops.
So yeah, that's most of it.
Okay.
I think we have basically went through all the defense principles.